All right. Great day, everybody, or should I say great evening. I'm not even going to embarrass myself or make you wonder why or whether I'm crazy. So I'm not going to tell you what time of day this is, but I am wrapping up the day. And I just want to get this off my chest. Well, first of all, my name is Sandler Francois of Premier Divorce Solutions. I am the creator. I, along with my team, shout out to Ms. Smith, shout out to Mr. G, shout out to the great, small but effective staff that I have. We are the creators of the Start Over Divorce Solution, formerly known as the Start Over Machine, and the One-Shot Divorce, the only service that assures you of completing your divorce in as little as one visit. Totally legal, totally legit, and no one else can offer it the way we do. Okay? So if you like these videos, I'm going to ask that you share, you subscribe, you like whatever platform you're looking at this on. And I'm appreciating all the great feedback. The questions and the comments have all been great and inspiring. And you can start checking us out on SoundCloud. I think it's under Premier Paralegal. I'll get that straight. If it's not under Premier Paralegal, then you can find us on SoundCloud or somehow type my name, Sandler Francois. I'll get it right. Eventually, my team isn't around right now to let me know if I'm telling you the right things. But I do know the reason I wanted to go on and share this with you. What was it? Be ready. If you're going to be divorced, you need a 3-weapon toolkit, or 3 tools in your bag of readiness. You have to be ready emotionally, intellectually, and financially. And I think in that order, some people may swap the order around, but I'm going to repeat. If you're going to be ready to get divorced and you want to move forward successfully, you have to be ready emotionally, intellectually, and financially. Getting over a cold, it's that time of year. It's cold season. Thank God I don't have the flu, but it is cold season, and don't want to spread these things to my kids. But you got to be ready emotionally, intellectually, and financially, and I'll explain why. For the most part, if you are lacking in any one of those 3 items, if you do not have all 3 of those tools, your divorce may end up being long, dragged out. It'll feel even more difficult than it probably would if you did have those 3 tools in place, right? And aside from that, you could be taken to the cleaners. I'm not into lawyer bashing. I love lawyers. I work with a ton of lawyers. As a matter of fact, the same divorces we do for hundreds of people every year is the same divorces we do for attorneys that hire us. Yes, we get hired by a nice bunch of attorneys that ask us to dot their I's and cross their T's, where we do a great job making them look good in the background. So I'm not into lawyer bashing. I am into liar bashing, and some lawyers forget their title. Some people tend to be liars, and some liars tend to be lawyers. That's interesting. It's true. But some non-lawyers, some regular everyday schmoes tend to be liars too. There are people who say they offer the same great service we do, and they tend to be liars also. But, the proof is in the pudding. But let's get back to the subject at hand. You have to be ready emotionally, intellectually, and financially. Emotionally, what do I mean? I mean, if you've decided to get divorced, it isn't something where you necessarily need to be angry with your spouse. A lot of times, my own personal experience in dealing with people on a day-to-day basis going through a divorce, I notice a lot of times they're really more angry at themselves. They're blaming themselves, beating themselves up unnecessarily, and they're actually just using the anger at themselves and redirecting it at their spouse. Sometimes they're embarrassed, so they never want to admit that maybe they were the one that broke that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Their actions that led to their spouse actually divorcing them. Just because they come to us doesn't mean that they necessarily were the one that decided to divorce. They just decided to come to us or go seek a divorce anywhere simply because the embarrassment of them making a mistake was enough. So they'd rather just run and go get the divorce done first. To me, and to no one else who does the kind of work we do, it should never matter what led to the divorce, because the hard decision to get divorced is their own. We're not in the business of helping anyone decide to get divorced at all, at all. This is life business that's very serious. So we're not in the business of helping anyone decide to get divorced at all. What we are in the business of is in helping you make the process easy. After you make the tough decision, it's our job to help you complete the process in the most convenient, affordable, and efficient manner. But a lot of times people are ready to jump the gun because they're angry, they're upset. Those feelings are justified, but I'm big into telling people you have to separate the facts from what's going on in your life from the feelings. They're both important, but when you mix them up, it gets kind of twisted, right? It gets like spaghetti, right? You can never really pull spaghetti apart once it's in place. Once you start trying to pull it apart, it'll break, and you're distracting yourself from the fact that it wasn't meant to be pulled apart because you let it get tangled up, right? So to separate the facts from the feelings, because when you don't, what you end up with is even more anger and hate and rage and a lack of clear thinking. And as I've said in many videos, and I'll say in many videos to come, your children are watching. If not your children, your family's watching. If not your family, your friends who may be suffering from relationship issues and contemplating a divorce are watching. So you want to be a good example, not only to those people, but you owe yourself some forgiveness and allow yourself to move forward, because your life is greater than this one very difficult point in time. Okay. So emotion, you need to make sure you're emotionally in check, even if that includes seeking counseling. Maybe you even want to try and work out the marriage before you decide to go down this slippery path of divorce, or rough road of divorce rather. But emotion, make sure your emotions are in the right place. Next, intellectually, make sure you clearly understand that once the emotional part is out of the way, just like I said, separate facts from feelings, it's time for you to understand that the divorce is no different than a business breaking up, two business partners going their separate ways. I've assisted people in my business consulting. When I give time to business consulting, I don't do it for very many, but people who are serious about their business. But there's been times I've been involved and asked to help people to separate a business. And that's based on whatever experience I've had. They see something in me that can help make it amicable. And I've noticed the best business partners that have been able to break up are ones who had a clear understanding as to the fact that it's over. They look at what they've developed together, in this case financially, and they decide to divvy it up evenly after the expenses are paid. Not necessarily giving you legal advice as to how you should handle your divorce, but I think it doesn't hurt for me to offer you some life experience based on my perspective in terms of being able to look at this as business. You and your spouse either developed a lot and should perhaps consider how you're going to fairly separate those great blessings you developed a lot, especially if it's finances, or you've inherited a lot of debt. And I see a lot of times people out of anger, going back to the emotional thing, they like to go ahead and put all the debt on their spouse. It really took two to tango. It very much took two to tango. I don't care if one person's name was in the account. You very likely benefit or were a benefactor of that credit card that was in your spouse's name. I'm sure there was a point where you loved each other so much that they said, go ahead, baby, use my card, sign my name, or go online and buy that, whatever. Guess what? Maybe you should consider separating the debt. I mean, you did live together. If you guys remain married and in love, you wouldn't say, that's your problem. Handle your debt on your own, please. I didn't do that. Well, you kind of did. Either you let it happen or you participated in it happening. But at the end of the day, I think it's most fair, just speaking in terms of life terms, that you separate the debt, just like you would separate the blessings. So intellectually, I think it's important that you look at your divorce as something that needs to be thought through clearly. You need to probably plan it on paper. Some people may think I'm being unrealistic, but believe it or not, I've met many a divorced couple. Actually, the ones that have the least amount of emotional eruption in our office are the people who have actually taken their time. Repeat, they have taken their time. And even pursuing the divorce, they let the emotions chill out. Maybe they've given it a chance to try to go out on dates again, whatever. I always encourage date your spouse, all right? It works for me. And I love being married, so date your spouse. Every date's not going to be the greatest, but at least your spouse sees you make an attempt to spend the time with him or her. So shout out to my wife. But aside from that, they've given it time. They've let the emotions die down. Their new schedules with the kids have been established. And now they're like, you know what? It's time for us to really just finalize everything. And those are the couples I tend to work with the easiest, respect the most, because they're in control. They literally just turn us into typists, where we're just typing their wishes on paper and we're filing it for them in court. And then after that, all they need to do is get an update. Ding! The divorce is over. Okay, and they can really continue to move on with their life. So it's good to apply some sort of thought into what you're doing before you rush into doing it. Lastly, the part that everybody likes to talk about, money. Money, 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 right? Make sure, whether you hire an attorney, you use some online divorce service, or use the expert service of Premier Divorce Solutions, wink, wink, you make sure you're ready financially. Because a lot of times that can add an extra sense of burden and pressure to the first two things I talked about. If you're not ready to pay for everything, then guess what? You're going to be stressed out and emotionally you're going to get upset. You won't like anybody in the world. You won't return phone calls. When we call you to move forward, you're going to act like all of a sudden 1 million people in your family died. You know how many times people tell me they've had death in the family the day before or the day of they're supposed to satisfy their invoice? I mean, there's some people, you would swear how many people they had in their family. Their cousin died, their neighbor died. All of a sudden, there was an unexpected death. And I'm not making fun of death. Death is very real. And some people were truly stating something that was a fact. But a lot of them weren't. And they simply were lying. And I'm not in the business of proving that your Aunt Sally Mae that you haven't seen in 20 years really died. I just have to put up with the foolishness. So I don't judge directly. But I do smile because a lot of times their character shows who they were, represents who they are now, and who they always will be. So if I sense you're a liar, you like to twist the truth up a little bit, I'm kind of thinking that about you at that point too. Yes, I'm talking to you. If you've interacted with me and you've said it and your family member really didn't die, I'm talking to you. But anyway, you have to make sure you save up for this. This is no different than saving for that car, that house, saving up for school, or saving up for a rainy day, right? You really want to save and make sure monetarily, financially, you're in the right place. So I think that's all for today. This is a bit longer than I normally like to go on for, but those are 3 things because it happened on a few occasions today. It's the beginning of the year and people are so hungry to break up and go their separate ways. They think that's representative of starting a new life, when really starting a new life is really looking in the mirror, asking yourself how you can improve yourself. And perhaps the problem wasn't in your spouse, it was in you, and you really don't need a divorce. I always like to fit that in. I love assisting people with divorce, but I never like to contribute to the divorce population unless it was necessary, making room for that special someone that you were really meant to be with, right? Or you were really meant to find that career that your relationship was holding you back from. Nevertheless, the key is this: be ready emotionally, intellectually, and financially. And hopefully the ride won't be as bumpy. That's it for me. Again, Sandler Francois, Premier Divorce Solutions. Subscribe, share, like the videos. Let me know what you don't like about the videos. I always aim to do better, and there's plenty more to come. Just stay tuned.